What's up, summoners? King Blair here. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most underappreciated classes in the game, and that is going to be the Soul Weaver class. We're going to talk about what makes them really good, why they're often underrated. Then we'll actually discuss some of the introduction to some of the Soul Weavers so you can understand how they work and why they're so good and how they create so much advantage. And then last but not least, I will be showing you a variety of different builds of a lot of Soul Weavers, including units like Amelia and Well, who are often the big Soul Weavers that a lot of people do tend to try to build and try to go for. So if you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord server. Link down in the description. Without further ado, let's get to an introduction to the Soul Weavers. Now, if you're wondering what the motivation for this video was, so recently we got Amelia, who is a more recent Soul Weaver, and a lot of people seem to think that she is a bad unit. And this has happened a lot in the past, especially when we talk about units like even like Maid Chloe. There are people that to this day still don't know that Maid Chloe is probably one of the best units in this game. So first, let's talk about the Soul Weavers. What is their role? What are they supposed to do? And what are you going to do? So essentially, Soul Weavers are going to be a support style hero. Now, there's a lot of different support style heroes, which is why they entitled this an introduction into support characters, because there's aggressive supports like General Purgus and control supports like Cerise, but they are a type of support. The main thing that they're there to do, with a few exceptions, of course, of Emil Haste and someone like Blaze Dingo, the main thing they're trying to do is get you advantage in the fight. They're trying to create advantage for your team. They're trying to sustain your team so that you're able to win the game. So they're not actively damaging the opponent. And that's the reason why a lot of people don't think Soul Weavers are that strong. They will complain about Carrot. They will complain about Arbiter Vildren. But you will only really hear top level players complain about things like Maid Chloe, because they're the types of units that they actually really appreciate how much pressure a unit like Maid Chloe puts, or how much pressure a unit like Amelia is able to put. So now that we know that supports are not there to try to just burst the opponent down and are trying to get you advantage in order to win the game, let's go over some of the more key supports, as well as the funky ones that actually do end up doing damage but still carry the roles of Soul Weaver, such as Emil Haste and Simple Angelica. So first, the big one is going to be Amelia. So Amelia is more recent, and a lot of people don't think she's that good, and I don't understand why. But if you ask any top level player, they will tell you that this unit is incredibly good, right? It's going to be a very strong unit. The reason being, this S2 has a 2-turn cooldown. So while she's not doing a lot of damage to you, she's giving one of your big DPSs, your Landy, your Charlotte, whoever you big DPS you need to decide, your Stene, she's cleansing 2 debuffs off of them. She's giving them 50% CR, giving you that advantage, and she's also giving them an attack buff so you're able to do damage. And then follow up, she has a cleanse and a barrier to keep your team alive. And in a fight, people don't realize how annoying and how strong this is, especially when she's just cycling and getting advantage. As she cycles more, your unit that does more damage, and as she herself is healing, you are getting so much advantage that if the opponent doesn't have the damage to just punch through your team, they're going to lose the fight, right? So in a way, she won you the game, even though she's not actively hitting the opponent like the Stene that you're boosting is. She is making sure that your Stene is getting those extra turns, getting that attack buff, getting that turn cycling, getting those souls that will allow you to soul burn later on and just win the fight off of that. Then we take a unit like someone like Maid Chloe, who right now is arguably one of the best units in RTA and in the game, honestly, because of how much advantage and support she actually brings to the table. And a lot of people don't appreciate how much this can do. So first, there's going to be the S3 that everyone knows. It's a 2 debuff cleanse that gives attack buff and revive. So that already, you have a unit that is cleansing. So if they have a series, you can just cleanse all the series debuffs. Then you're getting attack buff for everyone. So you're doing 50% extra damage because of the attack buff, or more. Yeah, 50%. Right? Because you're boosting by 50%, all your units are doing that extra 50%, like that extra damage, right? It may not be exactly 50%, but they're doing a lot more damage because they all have attack buff. So in a way, she's doing damage by supporting. And then on top of that, after you do that big S3, after you set up the rest of your team, you have the revive, making the opponent not be able to kill you right away and have to play around the revive so that they don't revive at the wrong time and your unit still gets the turn. And then, of course, she's able to still stun, give CR, as well as heal a ton, right? And give effect rest to everyone, right? So she does so much in a kit that she's honestly kind of broken. But a lot of people don't respect her is because they don't actively feel her destroying your team. You're not getting necessarily beat by her, but you're getting beat by the buffs and the healing, making it so you can't kill the opponent and the opponent is doing more damage on you. And it's like that for a lot of supports. Even things like Roll of Light, it's just the same idea. You can't kill the DPS because they'll just get revived back, making it harder for you to take out those priority key units. And the end kind of works like Amelia, where she's giving advantage to your team. And then, of course, there's a side Soul Weavers that you can also get that are a little bit more aggressive, things like Emil Haste. But at the end of the day, even Emil Haste is still doing his job. He's still giving you a barrier support. He's still healing your team, right? But he does a little bit more damage, which also makes him really nice, and also has damage mitigation when this S3 is up, right? So again, at the end of the day, Soul Weavers are trying to support your team, whether it's aggressively or defensively. They're not the ones that are going to be winning the game for you, right? They're not there to just pop the team and destroy them, unless it's Blingo, right? He's the one that, like, sometimes a little quirky, but still, he's there. He still gives support. He's still doing damage, and he's still healing. They all kind of have that same idea of what they're trying to do, and that's why they are so valuable. In Guild Wars, things like a Katie's, I feel like I need to point her out because she's a 4-star. You may say, oh, I don't have any of these 5 stars, King. I can't really play a Soul Weaver playstyle. Well, you can, because a Katie's is a type of unit that allows you to do that in Guild Wars by cleansing, healing, and making it so the opponent cannot break through your wall. So again, Soul Weavers are just healing, being annoying, and giving you advantage. Where you typically use Soul Weavers is going to be with other tank style drafts, because to get the most benefit out of a Soul Weaver healing your team and keeping you alive is by teams that are not going to be dying quickly, right? When we think of a unit like a Katie's, she shines in Guild Wars with Dark Corvus, because you're able to keep your Dark Corvus alive, so he doesn't die, so he's able to do his S3s, and right? And she has crazy cycling as well. With Amelia, you typically see her in a double support team composition with a Landy or a Stand-in or both, or a Violet, depending on what DPS you want to use, and then a Knight for protection, right? Because you want to stay alive and get use out of the advantage that you're generating. So at the end of the day, you typically will use them in tankier team comps, which that may not be your playstyle, but it still doesn't detract from the fact that Soul Weavers are really good in the game at doing what they're there to do. Support, be annoying, and generate advantage for you. So now you may be wondering, how should I be building my Soul Weavers? Well, since the way that you're winning is by getting advantage and by doing it so you don't just end up losing the fight right away, you typically want to give them some FRES so that they're able to tank some debuff. So here in the Discord, we do have a bunch of different Soul Weaver builds, and you can even look at the ones that we haven't really looked at that you can grab and kind of look at all the different builds that Soul Weavers have. But for the most part, they all share a very similar commonality, right? So when we look at someone like Amelia, what will Amelia have? She'll have a lot of FRES, a lot of speed, and really good tank stats. And that's pretty much all they really need, which makes Soul Weavers a really easy class to get to. And it's why I recommend early game players that are not rolling a lot of speed, build your supports, guys, because it's really easy to build them. So overall, this makes a lot of sense, because the FRES, you don't want to get locked down by things like Croft on Cecilia, right? Even some things like Falconeer Chloe or even Cerise, you want to try to be able to resist it, which is typically why Soul Weavers will be around 150 FRES. That is closer to the standard as 150. That essentially makes you resistant to a majority of debuffers, with the exception of dedicated debuffers, right? So that's why this FRES is really nice. Anything over 150 is great for these type of Soul Weavers. Speed, the faster the better, but honestly anything over 220 is more than enough, as long as you're getting advantage of it, as long as you're able to heal your team and be annoying and have a presence, right? They don't have to be 240 plus. And then tank, as tanky as you possibly can make them. And yeah, it's pretty standard, and we keep looking at a lot of them. Even something like the end, again, speed, high FRES, tanky, right? Very, very standard builds. There are some exceptions to this rule. Things like Rin don't necessarily need that much FRES, because they want to use things like counter, right? Because she's able to get advantage. But again, it's the same idea. Tanky, fast, right? And this one, essentially is a 4-star. She has slightly lower stats. And also because he's on counter set and he still wanted the speed of the Soul Weaver, it's why he sacrificed the FRES, but it still does the job really, really well. And it's the same thing with like something like DJ Bazaar. This one, since he's a dedicated cleanser, you would want a lot more FRES, but you can sacrifice some of your speed, right? So that's another option. And then there's things like Royal Light, who are just tanky and Soul Weavery, and you don't want to get interrupted. And it's like that for essentially almost all Soul Weavers, with the exception of Emil Haste. With Emil Haste being a little bit of the more quirky one. Emil Haste honestly is his own thing. Same with Blaze Dingo. We don't have one in the Discord right now. I know some people have posted it, but if you want an idea of Emil Haste, it's still relatively the exact same thing. It's just he wants more HP than all the other ones. because he's trying to do damage. And with Blaze Dingo, you would actually give him some attack and ignore Efres, right? But overall, the main stats you want to look for Soul Weavers is going to be Efres. The stat that everyone hates rolling, unironically, makes for some really good Soul Weavers, right? And then there's his Mayamo Haste. Not the greatest, but I mean, he gets the job done, right? But yeah, so essentially, Soul Weavers, they are there to support your team. They are there to help you gain advantage over your opponent, and they are there to win. So if you ever get some of these pieces that a lot of people hate getting, right? They're like, man, I hate these FRS pieces, or I hate how this unit doesn't, like, you know, people hate on FRS pieces a lot. They're like, I can't use this for anything. Well, those typically are going to be your best gears to put in a Soul Weaver and just tank the opponent out, right? So that's typically what you want to use for your Soul Weavers. So yeah, that is all I got for you guys today. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of Soul Weavers and how they generate advantage and why they're so good at this game. I suggest you build one, try them out in a tank your team composition, especially Amelia, and kind of appreciate how much advantage these heroes can really provide for your team, and you will start really loving Soul Weavers, because once you go Soul Weaver, you never go back. But that is all I got for you guys today, and I will see you next time. Peace.